I will call the public hearing to order on the proposed town budget for this year. Anyone who would like to address council on the budget may do so. All we ask is you come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who would like to speak about the budget? Seeing none, we will close out the public hearing, and then I will call the regular meeting to order, and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to come together today, tonight, this evening, Lord, and to serve the people of Irmo. Lord, we just ask for your guidance in all that we do, all that we say, all that we work on, Lord. And just help us, Lord, to work with each other and do what's good for the community. We thank you, Lord, for our military, our soldiers who are scattered about throughout this world, and giving us this right to do so. We thank you, Lord, for all the law enforcement officers around. And just ask you to be with them and bring them home safely each evening. We thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And the next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes. Is there a motion for approval as written?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor then of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. Next item is administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add to the briefing?
Just one thing, yes, sir. I put a letter in front of all of you, and it came from Central Midlands. It's a request for us to support them in their attempt to acquire a grant to complete the airport corridor going 378 connection through there. And they needed it like tomorrow. I got the request this afternoon, so that's why the rush job on it.
And we had done this one before, I think, back when
we supported it last time they were applying for the grant.
Whatever they were doing.
Is that this Benjamin Morgan letter?
I'm sorry?
Is that the letter from Benjamin Morgan?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, Hardy signed it, so why you need to tell us about it?
No, Hardy.
Nobody signed the letter.
It's got Hardy's name on the bottom.
Well, I'm trying to get approval before we can send it out and on behalf of council.
I mean, I thought it was coming from him. That's what I said. Why
No, it's going to him from us. We're supporting it.
They
Or
prepared
not.
it for him. This is that thing known as the Hardy.
Expressway.
Okay.
John Hardy.
Got it.
And they had evidently had it on something and didn't get the money or took it off, and now they're applying or reapplying or something, but they're getting all the municipalities, I guess, to support it, so they'll show it's got.
So they wrote this letter and put it on our stationery and sent it to us?
Well, they just sent it to me on email and I put it on our station.
Oh, okay.
It's fine with me. We supported it before.
Yeah, I would support it again.
Anything else?
No, sir, that's all I needed.
Anybody got any questions of Mr. Brown on the administrative briefing?
Mr. Brown's going to be gone the 5th through the 10th. We'll probably just have to fold up. We hope he has a good time.
Thank you. I'll be thinking of y'all.
No, you won't.
Think about not coming back.
Next item is receipt of communications, and I had one thing I wanted to show. I'm going to pass one that way. Mr. Dewar came in Monday last week and brought a copy, and this is just a preliminary copy, but I told him to pass it out to people and let them see. This is the front of the building, and this is what he's talking about doing to make it look. But he just wanted to kind of let everybody look at that, see what everybody thought. He said he may make some changes, but he just kind of did a preliminary. And I think Bob has the stuff from before. Did you find whatever he was talking about?
Yeah, we had a letter from him when he was going to
He does it.
tear down part of the building. This was 2009, the last time we got a letter from him, and he proposed to do all kinds of things, and he hasn't done anything yet.
But it showed how what was being torn down and what was being left. Because a lot of that building's been torn down, and only so much of it's been left, but he just wanted to kind of get a feel, is that something council likes?
It certainly looks better than,
He will still, and we will still probably have to do something, I just don't know what we got to do to deal with the parking issue. Whether it's grandfathered in or not, or whether we change the zoning, or whether we do whatever, I don't know. We'll have to kind of decide something. Any other received communication?
Yeah, I have a couple. First, I want to thank citizen George Glassmeyer for pointing out the City of Columbia screw-up when they wrongly convicted me of assault. They actually screwed up that situation, and that whole assault charge was dropped and not processed last week. And they admit that they were not, they were in error of convicting me without a trial. Also, we had sent out, I got a request on our agenda for a letter going out to Leon Lott, and I understand that we had one that was sent to us for the orchestra investigation, that there was a final report issued. And when I looked at it on an email, I looked at the report, and then they said that it was rescinded after Hardy had called them up. And it's kind of odd that the mayor would call up and stop them from releasing a report.
I don't think none of that's true. I don't know what email you're talking about.
Well, the email I got from Bob saying that the report was found.
No, I sent you a link to the New Irmo News because they had published a story that they had, that the investigation was over with. That was all I did so y'all could read it.
So when I got that, I looked at it and said, okay, the investigation's over, they found nothing wrong. And then 2 emails later, I see that Hardy says that Al had spoke with you, and you had said that you didn't know anything about it, and then you called the Richland County Police Department, and then all of a sudden...
And they said they knew anything about it. They said Curtis Wilson had misspoke, that it wasn't finalized and it wasn't true.
I mean, the point is you called them up and had them rescind.
No, I did not.
So, I mean,
You can go ahead with your receipt of communication, but that's not true, but you can go ahead with whatever your receipt of communication is.
Well, I mean, what's not true about it? I mean, we're looking for a final report, and
Then you'll have to
you're
wait for it to
blocking
get
it. You're blocking it from being released.
Well,
I mean, what else is...
That's your
What else is there to
interpretation
do?
of whatever. That's just a big fat lie, but that's okay.
It's not a big fat lie, it's the facts.
So,
The scenario
any other
is,
receipt of communication?
the scenario is why are you stopping the release of the report?
I'm not.
We're trying to get to the end of this thing, and you're trying to stop it from...
When Leon Lott says it's not complete, it's not complete. I have no control over that.
Well, the way I look at it is that, we had a
If you need to talk to
release.
Al Dozier or Kirk Luther about their article in the paper, you can talk to them, but they're the ones that rescinded that article because it's not true. And I think Captain Hughes called Al Dozier and told him that the article, or that the report and the investigation was not complete, so.
Yeah, but I mean, you after you phoned them and said, why you
No,
released this report.
that's a lie again. There you go. If you had been part of the conversation, you might be able to speak truthfully to it, but you weren't. Al asked me.
Well, did you call them up and ask them?
I called them up and asked them if the report was finished, and they said no. And I said, well, I'm looking at an article, and they said, well, we'll check into it, and they called Al back and said no.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the way
So you
it's
called
been
them up and asked them why you released the report then?
said. No, I called them up and asked them, where's the report? If it's through, where's it at? Why ain't I got it? And they said it's not. So I don't know how all that got started, but
Okay.
they've sent me some emails and said it's not complete, and Sheriff Lott's out of town until next week, and they're not going to do anything until he gets back.
So they sent you some emails that told you it wasn't complete?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
So anyway, is this a receipt of communication, or is this some kind of debate that needs to be on the agenda? It's not.
No, it is on the agenda, but I'm just pointing
Okay, well,
out
we can
that...
discuss whatever you want to discuss there. This is not a receipt of communication. A receipt of communication is where you share something. We don't debate it and argue it and discuss it.
So why are you talking then?
I'm waiting on you to do it. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Any other receipt of communication? Being none, next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to address council on anything that's on the agenda tonight, all you have to do is just come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, and then which item you want to address.
Thank you. Mayor King, members of Town Council, my name is Christina Jones-Cato, and I am the president of the Waterford Homeowners Association, which is the neighborhood directly adjacent to the property that is to be addressed in Ordinance 15-11 under New Business Item C, receiving first reading this evening. As the president of the Waterford Homeowners Association, I am responsible for representing the residents. While we appreciate this new developer's desire to provide quality homes for the residents of this area, we have concerns regarding the access to the property to be used for construction and future daily vehicle traffic after the development has been completed. A portion of the property on the Richland County side contains a small easement that runs between 29 and 37 Leeming House Court in the subdivision. Traffic through this easement would have to drive from the front of our subdivision through most of the neighborhood and enter the proposed development in the back of the easement. As you may be or may not be aware, the prior owner used this easement to run logging trucks and equipment through the subdivision, has caused damage to the roads, individual homeowners' properties, and the main entrance to the subdivision. As such, we are urging that the development not include the use of this easement for construction and future vehicle traffic. We understand that part of the proposed development is to use an access point off Irmo Drive, which we approve. As the entrance to Waterford is off Highway 6, this additional traffic would continue, if the easement to be allowed, would continue to damage the roads and property. We want to be good neighbors in the community and hope that the developers in the town will be mindful of this request on our behalf when considering the approval of Ordinance 15-11. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who would like to address council?
Yes, sir. My name is Roky Solomon. I live at 218 Shedford Road. And we've been having a problem with the trash service for months and months and months. And my complaints seem to go nowhere when I call the trash disposal company or I call the administration company in Irmo. And I wonder if you gentlemen or the lady have any suggestions on what we could do to improve the trash collection. They're not picking up the trash. They skip my trash. I've had to call probably 6 or 7 times already this year. And then when they do pick it up, they dump it in the street, dump half of it in the street, and I have to go out and clean it up. And complaints seem to go nowhere. Do you gentlemen or the lady have any suggestions on what we should do?
No, but we're very well aware of what you're speaking, and we're going to try to come up with some ideas to solve the problem. You're not alone.
Yeah, I understand this. All my neighbors complain too. We've all been complaining, calling advanced disposal, calling the administration building. Nobody seems, everybody listens, but nobody does anything. Now there has to be a solution. You know, I'm 74 years old. I've been dragging cans out to the curb for a lot of years. And I've never had this problem any place I've lived until I've lived in Irmo and got, you know, this new advanced trash disposal company. Now, if you need a new disposal company or revamp the one you got or whatever, but something has to be done.
Okay? I agree.
We got three,
I appreciate
three things to discuss when we get to that about that, and we'll kind of...
Solomon, S-U-L-E-M-A-N. The first name is Roke, R-O-K-E.
Anyone else who'd like to address council?
I've heard that. He's called.
Good evening, guys. My name is Chris Rawlings. I live at 319 Chapel White Road in Friarsgate. I'd like to speak to you on behalf of Ordinance 15-11 under New Business, Section C. The proposed new development that would be going in is literally in my backyard. For 13 years, I've owned this home, and we've had wonderful privacy from hidden oaks. We've had wonderful quietness in our small cul-de-sac, and without warning, without any kind of anything, Mr. Trussell's decided to completely log the entire area. We had no warning, we had nothing. We didn't even know what was going on. We just had logging trucks coming in and smashing and grabbing and tearing things up. They've left a horrific mess. If you don't believe me, just drive out there and look for yourself. That being said, some concerns that I have are going to be property value. When we bought our home, it was valued because it had the entire backwoods. Now it's going to have a big fat house behind me. We would love to see just a goodwill gesture on behalf of the people who've now bought it and will be developing it. We'd love to see what we're calling a green space, a hedge, maybe 4 to 6 feet deep, 25 to 30 feet tall. It can be achieved by any number of different evergreen plants, because that will give us privacy back again. And also, if you think about it, the people that are buying these new homes, they don't want to see me sitting on my deck. You know, and I really, honestly, I've seen woods for the past 13 years. I don't want to see them either. If I can just be honest about it. So just if we could have them take into consideration, if that could be part of the annex deal, they could consider just putting up a green space for us.
At one time, there were some serious flooding problems.
Yes.
Do they still exist?
It's worse now, actually, because it's come in and taken all the trees out. Okay, all those trees, the 11 acres behind my home, okay, acted as a buffer zone. Recently, within the past 2 months, we've had the water people come out and take a look, because now the Lexington side of the treatment facility plant off of Highway 6 is now getting bombarded with extra material that they got to figure out what to do with. Mm-hmm. Obviously, and it correlates exactly with the time frame that they started logging that area, which, to my understanding, he had no permits to do so. I mean, if I build a deck on my backyard, I have to have a permit. So how can you do that without a permit?
I used to have woods behind my home.
Yeah.
And now I have patio homes, which are very nice, and I'm glad to have them.
Sure.
But I also have more water in my yard.
Yep.
And the whole neighborhood's having sewer and water pipe problems.
And Ross Creek runs back through the back of my property. The issue that we stand to face is because of the now extra runoff that will be flowing into there, because they're proposing 250 homes back there, I think. Mm-hmm. The extra runoff is now going to put me in a floodplain, which now means that I will have to have
Flood insurance.
Flood insurance. Who's going to pay for that? I didn't previously need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that seem fair?
I understand.
So something needs to be done. They need to figure out a way to buffer that.
I understand.
I understand you say there's some logging going on there now. They're building a subdivision back there now?
That's on the proposal. That's number C.
No, I'm saying, you're saying that they're already building something back there?
They came in and logged it. They took out all the trees. It's clear cut.
Yeah, clear cut it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is why the extra water is now flowing through, because it has nowhere to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lisa Jurgensen, Vice President of Waterford Homeowners Association, and to reiterate what Christina Cato said about the logging, what has happened is they were taking down all the trees. I believe that the development And so all that, the woods have been cleared, and in order for them to get the logs, they've had to use that little easement in our neighborhood off of Highway 6. They could have come off of come off of Irmo Drive, but I think they would have had to, there's a little creek, and they would have had to have built a bridge. And I don't think any of them, the loggers or the seller, was willing to do that. So they did have a right, or whatever you say, to do that. But in turn, they have been daily coming through our neighborhood, and it has torn up, just like Christina said, yards, and has torn up more maintenance on our roads. So what we're concerned about now is the developer, and I'm hoping they are here, that we have, willing to take over that easement and just to block that off, because we cannot have construction coming through there. And we have a lot of people from our neighborhood that are real concerned, lots of kids. The neighborhood has been around for almost 20 years. And just to see that being the access for construction is really our biggest concern.
Was this a general easement, or is this an emergency vehicle easement, or
It was it was owned by a previous owner, and they sold it to Mr. Tressel on Irmo Drive, and he kept it. And so, we would like to purchase that, to keep it, just close out the neighborhood, because we just don't want any concern of traffic going through there.
They came in through Leamington and went all the way through your neighborhood?
Yes.
Daily. For about how many months?
Still.
I can speak a little more to that if given permission. They have been coming since the winter and have been coming through daily, sometimes 6 to 7 days a week, through the front of the neighborhood all the way to the back. They have damaged several homes, the yards and the homes. In fact, in one instance, they backed the logging truck completely into a homeowner's yard. They also damaged the front entrance going out back and forth because of the clearance. They didn't have enough clearance going in and out with the trucks and the heavy equipment. In fact, they were still there this morning, pulling out and doing work again, still this morning.
Did you contact the logging company?
Yes, sir, on several occasions. Oh, we'll fix it, we'll fix it, we'll fix it.
And these are huge trucks. I mean, big.
Oh, they're logging trucks.
Yeah.
18-wheelers.
Irmo Drive, there's a creek? Is that what you...
There is a creek on that property.
It's Rawls Creek.
Rawls Creek, what he referred to,
Okay.
that cuts through the property. And the logging company and the homeowner at the time that they started, the owner at the time, Mr. Trussell, at the time they started developing, were unwilling to build any temporary or permanent structure to cross that creek. So in turn, what they have done is we did consult with Richland County throughout this process as well, because it did affect the Richland County roads, and the county administrator has been monitoring it. But of course, obviously, our concern now is that they want to use this now as a construction interest for this new development, instead of taking everything off Irmo Drive, which would be obviously the place we would want for them.
What did Richland County say about this?
Richland County, the administrator, I talked to a member of Richland County Council, as well as talked to the administrator who handles public works in that area. And they have been monitoring the roads and have been giving them, honestly, weekly, sometimes bi-weekly updates on what's been going on. And they have been coming out and taking pictures of the roads as well and addressing any issues that they have had with the logging company as well.
So what did they tell you? I mean, what did they tell you to take pictures or what?
No, Richland County is taking pictures. And we have taken, the homeowners themselves, as well as the homeowners association, have contacted the logging company each time that they do come in and mess up the front entrance and the yards. And they have tried to repair what they can, as far as the
Richland County tried to repair.
No. I'm
Would
sorry.
you like, the developer would like to say a few words?
Sure, absolutely.
If you don't mind.
No.
Robert Wilder. I'm actually not the developer, but I do represent the developer. I live downtown Columbia. I'm not a resident of Irmo, but
Robert
Wilder.
Wilder. Yeah, Wilder. That's correct. And I appreciate everybody's comments tonight and the concerns. They're all valid concerns. I do want to clear up a few things that have been talked about tonight. First of all, currently the property is still owned by Mr. Trussell. It is under contract with a potential purchaser who's working through some situations to be able to come in, deliver a development for this particular area, something very comparable to what Waterford is, presenting those type of homes. Mr. Trussell, unfortunately, is acting under his own accord. If you've ever noticed his property, he has a considerable amount of construction equipment back there, and by trade, he is a contractor, and I think he kind of enjoys going through and tearing down trees. That is not at all a reflection of what the purchaser has wanted or has asked for. To address the gentleman in Friarsgate about his the particular water runoff, currently that particular stream cuts through Lexington County and Richland County, and I believe that is maintained by the stormwater control of those two counties. The proposed development also would not have, I don't believe, any more than 160 units, not 200 units or 250 units. As for the easement that cuts through Waterford, it's not actually an easement, it is a lot that was purchased by Mr. Trussell. For whatever reason, I think it was to be able to gain some kind of access to water or sewer. Not exactly sure what his thoughts were behind that. Why he is using that as a construction entrance does not make any sense either. I don't know why he just wouldn't come back up his driveway to be able to get through there, because there's quite a bit of land to come through that power line is up front. But I guess the two representatives from Waterford might have answered that with the creek passing through. But like I said, the property right now is not controlled by the purchaser. It is under contract. It's moving towards contract. The purpose tonight was to address annexing into the town of Irmo, and then also addressing the annexation and the ability to kind of move forward with that. There are 3 parcels that are affected by it. It's 2 Lexington County parcels, and then 1 Richland County parcel. So I would be happy to stay afterwards and speak with anybody from Waterford on your concerns. I'd love to hear them. And I'd be happy, I don't represent Mr. Trussell, but I'd be happy to go and take your concerns to Mr. Trussell and pitch those to him, and maybe even if he's amenable to setting up a meeting with the...
We met with him.
Wow.
He's been aware of all of our concerns the entire time.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't represent Mr. Trussell other than tonight on the annexation process, but I'd be happy to take any concerns. Unfortunately, at this time, it is a Richland County and Lexington County matter, and if it did come into the annexation of Lexington County, of the town of Irmo, then maybe we could address it all as a team. And then also from the buffering standpoint, for the gentleman at Friarsgate, because of that creek and because of the stormwater and erosion control mandates by Lexington and Richland County, there will be a considerable buffer. So even though it won't be the nice pretty tree line that's been depleted by Mr. Trussell, it still will be a large enough buffer, 50 to 100, actually, excuse me, I believe 100 feet for the stormwater control in Lexington County on either side of the stream. So hopefully that will serve as a buffer as well.
Would the new purchaser consider foliage like evergreens as a buffer?
Again, I'm just a representative. I can absolutely take any suggestions and recommendations from the council here tonight and take that to them. I'm sure they will take into consideration, because it makes for a more enjoyable and easier experience when everybody in the surrounding property owners are happy. So I'd be happy to take notes or those things into consideration. There is a considerable amount of green space in the back portion of the property, but again, it's been kind of knocked down, and it would be expensive to replace for somebody to come in there and start putting up evergreens or things like that. But I'm happy to take any comments and take them back to the developer.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else who would like to address council?
Hello, my name is Sandra K. Ruth. I live at 423 Crestfield Road. It's right in Hidden Oaks. It's the dead end in Hidden Oaks. And to piggyback on what Mr. Rollins was saying, when we purchased our home 8 years ago, it was the wooded area that caught our attention. And the mortgage lady that sold us our home actually, and I'm not sure if it's in my mortgage clause, but I will look, stated to me that there wouldn't be any kind of development in that area. My deck on my back porch drops off, and you can stand on my deck and just look at the woods just be daily, which is very upsetting to me. And the other thing is I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and since that area has been cleared off, we have seen tremendous amount of snakes. I think if you're going to do something like that, the homeowners need to know to be aware of things like that so we can prepare, put stuff around the house to make sure that, you know, we're safe. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. The next item on our agenda is third reading of 1506 to amend our Irmo Town Code, boards, commissions, and committees.
1505.
1505, yeah. Let me flip to that page. Make sure I have the right one. Okay. Yeah, so is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
This just has turned out into asking for a budget and having them more or less adhere to it with reasonable judgment on things that could cost more, but that's about it.
Say it again?
All it says is that they will have a budget and give it to us and let us know what it is, or, you know, whatever, notify us, and adhere to it as best possible. But we have, not in there is that we have the understanding there could be cost normally associated with the orchestra that are unanticipated, and we understand that.
Well, we added that thing to it within the perimeters of the budget, or their budget,
Right.
which kind of helps clarify that, yes, they have control of the expenditure of funds and raise it all appropriated, but they also got to stay within the perimeters of
Well,
their
and
budget.
it's just like the rest of the town, we all have a budget.
Right.
I mean, they always do, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
always, okay. And they always follow what their guidelines set up, right?
More or less. The only thing I've noticed different is they always seem to think they can bring in more money in terms of sponsorships, not anything else. And that's probably something we need to work on in future agendas, is deciding what to do about someone bringing in sponsorships.
That's revenue projection. I mean, they can't control that.
No, but we need to deal with it.
I mean, that's just revenue. I mean, you can't
that's
control
not
how
part
much
of it.
revenue you make. But I mean, what
But
you can control is what your
always
expenditures.
expect more than comes in.
You
So I'm
can
just
control
saying
how much you put on the budget as far as your revenue. If you know you're only going to get so much, you need
At
to
some
put that
point, we
much on
need
there and no
to
more
hire
than
somebody
that.
to do that. get more
To be a
revenue.
genie and tell you exactly how much
Well,
you make.
Jake has told us that he takes a weekend and raises thousands. I don't
That's
see
for the
why
Arbor
we
Day
can't
committee. I'm
hire
talking
him.
about the orchestra.
Well, he can change, instead of Arbor and say Okra.
You can?
I have faith in him. I'm ready to hire Jake, but I'm just saying that has nothing to do with this. That's something we're going to have to consider later, is getting someone to help us raise more money in sponsorships, and we'll do that. This is just get a budget and adhere to it.
Mr. Mayor, is this 1505 or 1510?
1505. 1505. This
Hold
is the
on,
one
that's
that
15.
we're amending.
So it says 1510 on the...
That's
It's new business.
another thing on the agenda.
That's something else.
Yeah, that's under new business.
Yeah, this is not on here. This is under the old packet.
It would have been in your last packet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was
we had
looking
to-
for it in this
yeah.
packet.
we wrote something, and then Harvey amended it, and we all agreed to it.
I got it here, I'll read
That's
it.
when it might have been.
It says, "The Oak Commission shall have control over the expenditure of funds raised by or appropriated to the Oak Commission for the expenses incurred in the performance of its duties and functions," and that's what it used to be, period. And then we added within the perimeters of their budget. So it basically says they just got to stay within that budget, that both sides of the budget.
Right. All right, thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of 1505 with the amendment, do so with show of hand. All opposed? And next one is third and final reading of ordinance 1506. And I'll read that one and get a first and a second. To amend the Irmo Town Code Board of Commissioners Committee, Orchestra Commission, Section 2. This is the one, I'll go ahead and read this so we'll know what we're doing. It says, originally under 262, a fair and equitable compensation will be recommended by the Orchestra Commission and approved by a majority vote of council. We've added to that, we deleted that sentence, and we replaced it with this sentence. Upon the recommendation, of the Orchestra Commission, Town Council shall approve by majority vote an annual contract with individual name and or company, including compensation and payment schedule. The selection process, including solicitation, will be in accordance with accepted purchasing policies as outlined in Town Code. And that's what we kind of changed it to.
Are you looking for a motion?
Oh, yeah. I want to read it, but I'll make a motion for first reading. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Y'all find it on there? Are they on the? Okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor then of that one, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next one is second reading of ordinance 1507 to adopt the operating and capital budget for the town, which is $5,207,503, which includes the orchestra budget of $65,200. Well, it doesn't include that, so that'd be on top of that. So the total with the orchestra is $5,272,703. And again, with zero millage for the town. And is there a motion for second reading?
So moved. So second.
Any discussion? All in favor then of second reading of this budget, do so with show of hands. And next one is, let's see, now this is the new stuff or is this the old stuff?
Still one more old one.
1508.
1508.
Okay, I got it. 1508, oh, this is where we're getting rid of the first reading, where we're eliminating that. So is there a motion for 1508 for approval for second reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second. All right.
Any discussion? And this one is where we're removing where it says no amendments may be made to the ordinance during first reading and the ordinance is allowed on the table until second reading. So basically, we can make amendments at first reading if we pass it. So is there any discussion? All in favor then of second reading, do so with show of hands. All opposed? And now, next is new business and ordinance 1509. And these, 1, 2, 3, and I'll just kind of say this before we get started. I kind of went through the orchestra ordinance and picked up stuff that I felt like was not clear, and some of it was old. I think As we've discussed, this is, what, the 40th something? So this is some of the stuff probably written 40 years ago, 41, 40 something. And try to clarify some of this stuff here. And this one, I'm trying to see, no, I'm on the wrong one. 1509.
This is the school board.
Yeah, this is where we changed that. Is there a motion for first reading of 1509?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And this is where we're deleting, it actually says Lexington School District 5 and Richland School District 6, and changing that to Lexington and Richland School District 5. And then under section 263, we have in there now, it says, and those who have submitted a written proxy, and then one of the other sentences says, at the discretion of the commission, the duties of the secretary and/or controller may be performed by the staff. And I wanted to delete one of those and change it, and then delete that. Technically, by law, and it may have been different 40 years ago, but all votes have to be in, all people have to be present to vote. No proxies are allowed, and I don't know if it used to be allowed or what, but I know they're not now. And then the part about the discretion of the commission, the duties of the secretary, I don't think the town ought to be doing it. They'll have their own secretary, and I think we just need to clear that up and let them know that they should be doing that. They've never had a controller. And then the last one is to add it in the sentence, and I think that's the one where it says something in regards to the meeting in November, where the mayor calls that meeting in November, and the chairman's supposed to attend the December meeting and tell what went on in the November meeting. And I wanted to add to that the chairman should also be at all county meetings, all council meetings that have anything on the Oaks truck for the agenda, so that he can be at all those meetings if we discuss the Oaks truck, so that somebody can be there to answer the questions. Right now, it's not really required. So those are what these three here are about. And I will let anybody else ask questions or any discussion.
So no amendments to first reading?
Well, yeah, that's right now. Well, we're not supposed to. We have in the past accidentally. But I also think, and I'm not sure, if we do a first reading on the ordinance and actually a second reading too, if we were to make an ordinance about zoning or whatever it may be, that while that ordinance is in second reading and actually first reading, then nobody can abide by whatever's on the books already. They have to either wait until they see what we do, but they can't go by whatever's on the books because it's in change. So they couldn't come in and say, I want to get this zone right now before y'all change the thing. Based on that thinking, I would think it would be okay, but again, I don't know if we wanted to make an amendment. That's kind of one reason why we get rid of that, so that we can make amendments on first reading and not have to wait till second.
I agree changing the school district. I need to study these others just to, or maybe hear from our town attorney if these look legitimate changes.
We don't have a Richmond School District 6 anymore.
No, I'm just saying, I agree with that part. Just the other part, items I would have to study.
We can ask Jake about that written proxy thing. As far as the second sentence, and I'm not sure if we have, I don't know what's on the iPad because I don't look at that, but does it show what's in there now and what we're adding, or does it just show?
It's just showing what you want to delete.
I think.
Well, we can take it as title only now, and any changes that we wish can be done at second reading. If somebody has heartburn over something that's there now, what we have done in the past is made that known, and the town administrator would just have that language ready for the next reading, so that we didn't have to recreate the wheel.
Like, for instance, that thing on written proxy, I think it came up at a couple meetings and told me they couldn't do it. Jeff Shacker, because I had spoke to him about that, and basically because of the freedom of information, that's what changed it, was the freedom of information. Because of that, at all public meetings, all elected officials have to vote, and they have to be present. And the only way you can have someone not present is basically if they're on Skype or some kind of technology like that. The public has to be able to hear whatever the non-present member is. They have to be able to listen to everybody else, and they have to be able to change their mind and say, oh, I didn't know that, I want to change my mind now, whatever. But mainly it's the public has to be able to hear all that conversation, even if you're on a cell phone or one of these things or any kind of telephone. If they can't see and hear them, then they can't vote. It's basically what they've said during the freedom of information. That's why that was changed. It may not have been before, I don't know what it was before, but, and that's why I wanted to take that out and clarify that so it wouldn't come back up again as a confusion.
Okay, I understand that on the proxy. The second part here, at the discretion of the commission, the duties of secretary and or comptroller may be performed by the staff of the town. It was my interpretation that that wording, and it may have been wrong to combine secretary and comptroller, but that put all of the control of the funds back to the town and took them out of the hands of the orchestra as far as handling any money. That was what, the way I read that is because if you go back further, and I know you said you were reading through the ordinance, it also says that the orchestra should manage their own checking account. And they used to do that many years ago. And in fact, the checking account for the orchestra was at a different bank from the town's account. And this part was, I think, put in to say no, that the town was going to handle that money, the comptroller for the town, and comptroller may be the wrong term, but the town would be handling writing all of the checks, not the orchestra commission. So I don't think you want to totally take that out and leave it in limbo as to who controls the money. I think it's the feeling of council that we want the town to control the money, the issuance of checks and that type thing, and have it run through the town's books so it is an auditable situation.
Right.
If I'm misspeaking, please correct me, but
I think you're probably right.
I thought that was what was put in there, to give the town the control of the dollars and the issuance of checks. Because it used to be that on the night of the orchestra administrator, which was Jim Twitty at the time, sat down with a checkbook and just wrote checks to everybody that needed to be paid. And then there was no oversight or checks and balances within the town.
I agree with everything on here but that line.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the rest of it, but I think...
Secretary, but not the controller. Is that what?
Right. I don't think you want to get rid of the controller being performed by the staff of the town.
I don't know, but I know that part you're talking about, it says we're supposed to deposit $2,500 at the beginning of the year, so to speak, in their account. I don't know that we've done that in many years because we have it all in one account.
Yeah, but it shows in the books that money is available there before, I think it was put there to actually put it in that other checking account. But we haven't done that checking account, and that was back at the beginning of Sander Tankersley's time. And we looked at doing that, I reckon probably 10 or 12 years ago, again, when the issue came up about the orchestra being in September and it splits fiscal years and that type thing. It was hard to keep it all maybe like on a calendar. And the auditor said that it would be very laborious and difficult to do with our bookkeeping system as it was, and would put a lot more work on our town clerk, and we didn't want to do that. But that part was never taken out of the code.
Well, what we can do is either, say, vote it down and start over, or vote it first reading and then second reading.
I would vote it first reading, and I will have something for second reading
change it to
that I will offer, if no one else does, to keep the comptroller of the orchestra funds with the staff of the town.
Okay. And that's fine, yeah.
I don't think it's right to make the staff be the secretary of the orchestra commission. They have their own secretary.
Taking out controller altogether because they never had one. Well, not in X amount of years or whatever. But yeah, that's fine. What about the third, 263?
What's
And
the
that-
first part of the sentence?
That says, let me find it real quick.
What's the rest of the sentence?
Holy moly. It's a page. Actually, A263, A2. Oh, okay. It says right now, the commission chairperson shall report in writing to the town council the results of the annual organizational meeting, which is the one in November, where they elect officers and that kind of stuff, to include suggestions for appointment to the commission by the council, projects to be sponsored by the commission fundraising efforts, and such other matters as are appropriate. The report shall be made no later than the first regular council meeting in December. The commission chairperson shall be in attendance at this meeting of the council, period. And then what we were adding, or what I was adding, was basically it would be not a period, it would be a comma. And all council meetings that have agenda items pertaining to the orchestra, so that he would know that, or she, or whoever would know that in the future, any meetings where we discuss the orchestra, any part of funding or financing or who knows what, then they would also be available at that meeting, or those meetings.
They'd also be what?
Available at those meetings.
Okay.
Wherever we, just
Okay.
anytime we have anything on the agenda for the orchestra, the chairperson would be at those meetings as well. Not just that one.
You can't ask them to come to the meeting and tell them it's going to be an agenda to come to the meeting.
Yeah, but they don't have to. And I thought since we're going through this, I'd just clarify that up too, so that they would know they need to be there at all of them, that have something on the orchestra, or have something on the agenda.
They get the agenda, and I would think they'd want to be there.
At least the chairman or their designee.
Yeah, that's what I'd think.
Yeah. And like I say, we can change some of this at next reading,
That's unnecessary.
and then, well, they haven't been at some meetings where we've discussed orchestra stuff. A couple of them recently.
Did you ask them?
I don't need to ask them, I think they ought to be there. I mean,
You don't need
to me,
to
that's
ask
simple. If we're going to discuss the orchestra stuff, I think they ought to be there.
You don't need to ask them. Just know to be there.
So any more discussion? All in favor then of the first reading of ordinance 1509. Do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item, and this is again one of the other things, but ordinance 1510 to amend the Irmo Town Code, Article 4, Board of Commissioners Committees, Division 2, Oak Strut Commission, Finance and Expenditures. Is there a motion for first reading?
I'll make a motion, first reading.
I will second. And this one, let me get that piece of paper out.
Okay, in this
Okay.
one, where is the A going? Where it says
This
A?
is the one that we're just working on, where it says, the Oak Strut Commission shall have control of the expenditure of funds raised by or appropriated to the Oak Strut Commission for the expenses incurred in the performance of its duties and functions, and then we've added that one within the parameters. The next sentence says, the expenditure of funds shall be in compliance with administrative rules and procedures established to control the town's financial transactions. Prior to the adoption of the annual town budget, the commission shall submit to the council a realistic budget outline. Initial funds of the commission shall be placed in a separate checking account from profits received from prior Oak Strut festivals not to exceed $2,500.
See, that's the part I was talking about that separate checking account that's going to need to be stricken.
And then that paragraph right there, if I remember correctly, becomes A.
It does.
That becomes A. And instead of right now, it's one paragraph, so it's nothing, but it becomes A, and then we're adding to that
B
section
to the-
B. The Oak Strut chairman will be responsible for ensuring that the Oak Strut Commission stays within the approved budgeted revenue and expenses. The chairman shall inform and submit changes for the expenditures to the town administrator for approval if revenue does not meet pre-planned projections to keep the balanced budget. And that's what's added to that.
That just makes clear staying within the parameters of their budget.
Yeah, and then if
How
it looks
you-
like the revenue's not going to
And
meet.
gives them an avenue to make changes if they need it.
And say, we got to change. Or they actually get more, and they can come and say, we're getting more. We either want to save it, or we want to spend it, and here's what we want to spend it on. And that kind of, at least somebody knows, somebody's got to look at that and come to us, and whoever the chairman, to me, would be the best person.
Mr. Mayor, can you speak up a little bit? I'm having trouble a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the others might.
Hear me? Hear me okay? I don't have a problem with B at all. I think that clearly explains very clearly the avenue that the Oak Strut Commission through the chairman would follow, staying within the parameters of their budget, and gives them an out if they need to make adjustments to that budget to come through a check and balance through the town administrator. I think, and I will vote for first reading approval. At second reading, I will have offer an amendment, second reading, to do away with the verbiage that says that it will be placed in a separate checking account. If we're cleaning it up, let's clean it up.
Yeah, that one I didn't know, I wasn't.
That's been a touchy issue for quite a few years. And so it just needs to be cleaned up, and this will be a good time to do that.
It actually is the Oak Strut account,
Right,
but it's not in a separate
checking account, and
It's all in full cash,
right.
but it is a designated account for.
It's just like sanitation is a separate fund balance. It's a,
Correct.
Is that leak? Any more discussion on this one?
I don't quite understand
Well, I second it. Harvey made the motion and I second, yeah.
I don't quite understand how the orchestra is a revenue-producing entity of the town of Irmo. And the reason why I say that is because you want them to comment on revenue projections when there is no revenue to be made from the orchestra. I mean, we don't have we're not trying to sell stuff at the orchestra as a town of Irmo. So how in the world can they give you revenue projections?
Well, they would give you revenue projections based upon the rental of spaces for arts and crafts.
But that's never going to be equal to the expense of the orchestra.
No,
It's never
not, but they're going to have to use contributions and
Sponsorship. But with their,
sponsorships.
I mean, they're balanced with that 65-2 or whatever it was, based on however much was coming from the fees to be in the orchestra and how much was coming from the town tax dollars, the alcohol.
Right.
And how much was coming from the Lexington Medical. All of those items together equal, I guess, 65-2, or maybe there's some other money from
Yeah,
somewhere else, but
there's other places that money comes in.
all that is their revenue, for all those. And they can estimate that this year's a little bit different because it's the first year for doing it the way they're doing it. But I think it's still probably pretty good, probably pretty close. And if we get a little bit, we're going to get maybe from whomever. We might even end up in the black a little bit. Or if we pass this, then they can come to us and ask us to put it somewhere.
But how do you expect the orchestra commission chairman to know that?
Well, they know when they're
Into
meeting.
it. I mean, there's no way for them to know until after the fact.
Well, there's no way to know on the, some of the stuff, but they'll know how many people have got booths and paid their fee. You'll know if Richmond or Lexington County, Lexington Medical gives them 15, they'll know they got that. If they get X amount of dollars from, say, the parade or wherever the other revenue streams are, they'll know that that's coming in pretty close to what they expect.
The big thing that I see here is they have a budget that they've come up with that adds basically X number of dollars, say, for a band.
That's expenses, right?
That's expenses.
Correct.
And we're telling them you need to stay within that budget.
And they don't.
But if they see that they really have an opportunity to get a different band that is a little more, that would exceed that budget, this gives them the avenue to go to the town administrator and say, you know, we had $10,000 for a band, we really want to spend $12,000, and we're willing to give up $2,000 from over here at some other place, so that again it stays within the budget, or it makes a budget adjustment, just like the council does a couple times a year if all of a sudden we have to replace a leaking roof or repair to that roof that we didn't have in the budget. And we do that a couple times a year and make those adjustments so that the auditor can follow it.
Just, where is this leaking to?
To the floor.
To the floor?
In a bucket.
I bought a trash can.
Right there?
I bought a trash can and put it in so it wouldn't.
This is a big concern. Bob, can we handle this?
Oh, we can try.
I know, but, okay, never mind.
All right, any more discussion on 1510? Any more discussion? All in favor of first reading of 1510, do so with show of hands. All opposed? And next is first reading of ordinance 1511 to annex Lexington County tax map 1800-01-04 and 060, and in Richmond County tax map R3209-01-62, which is Paul Trussell's property back on Irmo Drive. Is there a motion for first reading to annex the property?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second to talk about it, yeah.
Alrighty. And I will recognize Councilman Hoots first. And then
Okay, I'll start by saying that at this point in time, we have absolutely no control over what happens on that property. It's not in the town. If it had been in the town, if the term that's been used is accurate, and I do not know that, the term clear cutting, that would not have been permitted. To clear cut it. It doesn't mean you couldn't take some trees down, but you couldn't clear cut it. If you did, there would have been a penalty. They couldn't have developed the property for 2 years. The fact that it was not in the town, we have no control over that. It's just like we have no control over Columbiana Center. It's not in the town. By annexing this into the town will have more controls over their development. So I just wanted to make that clear, you know, and I totally respect those folks that have spoken to us that back up to this property, the ones on Chapel White and on Crestfeld, into that little corner that comes there along where Rawls Creek comes behind Chapel White. There will have to be some buffering and all that, because Rawls Creek, we've tried to do work on Rawls Creek many years ago, and that is controlled by the Corps of Engineers. We can't, even if it were in the town, it's much like our community park. There's a creek that runs through there. We can't do anything to that creek without the approval of the Corps of Engineers. Same here with Rawls Creek. Because Rawls Creek does have an impact downstream to a lot of property. So, you know, I appreciate your concern about the tree line and that disappearing, but there's a statement that goes along that said if you want to control the property, you better own it. And I can't imagine any real estate company telling someone that, well, this is back here, it can never be built on. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but if they did state that, if they didn't own it, they had no control over it. But the only thing that you can be assured of with that is federal parks and federal lands. So
that's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
But that's a civil matter that we couldn't even, if it were in the town.
Going on what Harvey's saying and continuing, it affects Hidden Oaks, where we have a lot of good people that live. It affects Chapel White. And I'm more worried about the flooding part than anything else.
Can I ask you a word? Right now would be a great opportunity if you guys wanted to go take a drive over, which is now like probably swelled to within 6 inches of my property.
I understand.
That's Rawls Creek rising.
As far as, yeah, that's Rawls Creek.
Yeah, it goes up real quick.
During a normal day, if it's sunny out, it's 1.5 inches deep. When it rains like this, it swells to about 12 feet deep.
Yeah.
Just to give you guys an idea of what
I remember.
I remember that too.
And so when I had the forestry department come out and measure, they have to measure at the current creek level. Well, yeah, at the current creek level of 1.5 inches by 2.5 feet wide, it was 40 feet to the edge of the woods. Right now, it's about 7, to give you an idea. So, I mean, when we're talking about a buffer zone of 50 to 100 feet, I mean, from which point? And it's got to be from the edge of the creek, bro.
Situations like that, we might be able to improve, but at least we can make sure it doesn't get any worse. Because in my case, it did. I was, when they started doing those patio homes, which are very nice, and I certainly agree that they should be built, but, I have the lowest point in that area now in my backyard. Something, and it would never held water never rose, all that, but it does now. Steve Rich and I have a water problem because of that. And everybody on Quail Valley West has a sewer problem because that's where they connected to the sewer to build all the patio homes. I just don't want to see that happen again because we've already been through it. And the snakes, who said about the snakes? You're right. We had a profusion of copperheads when they started clearing that land behind us. I mean, it wasn't just little rat snakes, it was copperheads, because coming from the creek. So I know what you're talking about. You're right. If nothing else, we may be able to control some of this, because bad things happen when you build sometimes. So.
Back in 1995, I believe it was, when we did a major work in that area. And at that time, when we had rain like I'm hearing now, that water would not come within a few inches of the property. It would come within a few inches of the back door. And the yards would be totally underwater. Yeah. The Corps of Engineers came in and said, you can do this, this, and this. And we spent about $380,000, $400,000 in rerouting that a little bit to try to open that up and move that water on downstream to the point we had to put a retention pond in at Coatsworth to help catch that water so that we didn't flood out Murraywood. Because when you turn water loose upstream, you're responsible for what it does downstream. So, again, I haven't been out here and ridden this, but I know that this property on Chapelwhite, because I had two cousins that owned property that backed up right there to Rawls Creek, where it came and made that turn. And it would come within just a few inches of their back door.
And I'm in sympathy with Waterford.
Yes.
That's a very nice neighborhood, just as Hidden Oaks and, all the rest are.
Right.
To see log trucks going through, I mean, that's a long way to Dreer Shoals. I'm sure it tore up things, but concrete, curb, gutter, you name it, I'm sure it did.
So is there a curb cut? I assume it's not.
In
Waterford.
Yeah.
Rounded curb, whatever, I don't know.
It's a rounded curb, but not really a curb,
Yeah.
not a curb cut for a road.
But I'm sure it was affected by the logging. I just would bet money on that. I'm familiar with logging.
Was anything that they can do with the county on that?
Well, in my opinion, I don't know, but it's a public road. So probably what they're going to say, if it's a public road, then anybody can drive on the public road. Should they be doing it, it's a different.
But entry through a lot.
There is no ordinance. I checked with the county. There is no ordinance that prevented the law in Richland County that prevented the logging trucks from doing it.
Right, because it's a public road. It may be, and I don't know, Bob. I don't know if you can answer these questions or not, but as far as what our ordinance says now in regards to buffer. If somebody's building residential next to residential, what's the minimum buffer that?
The minimum buffer is like 10 feet.
10 feet.
10 feet. And that is just whatever's there now. Doesn't have to be anything added to it. It's just whatever's there within the 10 feet. They'd have to leave it alone, but they don't have to add anything.
But we could ask them to.
Yeah, unless when it went to planning commission.
See, that's it. If it comes into the town, then it's going to go to the planning commission. Planning commission is going to have say.
Wherever this creek is, and I'm not sure where it is. I don't know if it runs down.
It runs right through.
It runs right to the back of
Does it run right down this line?
Chapelwhite.
And then it comes right out here. You can see where it comes out. The little squiggly line.
So if that creek, though,
and it's a big creek,
is there, then if it's in the Corps of Engineers, I don't know that we can require them to plant stuff in a Corps of Engineers waterway.
There's a buffer area that's required by the Corps of Engineers, I'm
Yeah,
sure, I don't know what it is.
But it's, say, 100 foot on each side. But, and let's just say it's right down here on the property line. Then within 100 feet of that creek on the new people's property, we can't make them do anything because it'd be Corps of Engineer land and we can't make them put a 6-foot fence up or property or anything.
Well, they put a fence along the property line if they couldn't do any major construction, permanent construction.
I mean, the creek comes up now about 4 feet, 5 feet behind some of the property.
Yeah, but we can't tell them, if we want to say, or if we wanted to tell them, you got to put up a row of Leyland cypress all the way down this property line. If that property line is within the creek,
No, I don't think you're right.
then
Yeah.
we can't make them.
But we don't know if there's a buffer. It's like our community park over here. The Corps of Engineers did not have a buffer. They said this is a protected creek, and it only covered from one edge to the other edge of the creek. There was no outside easement.
But didn't, I think Richland County passed something a couple of years ago, Lexington may have too, I don't know, that said any of the Corps of Engineer waterways, the builder could not build within
Well, again, I don't know
X
exactly.
amount of buffer
Well,
on both
if they
sides
got
of that
100
thing.
feet, I think they'd be happy.
Yeah,
Tree
but-
or no tree.
Yeah,
That
but
just-
it may just be that whatever is on the
Yeah.
ground, whether it's grass or whatever, we couldn't make them do anything.
And that
unless we
creek's
made them do
20,
it on the
30
other
feet
side.
wide in places.
I'll give you my thoughts along for the positive of annexing it into the town. One, as it's annexed into the town, development's gonna have to go to the planning commission.
Yeah.
If council can remember, when the planning commission took up Rose Oaks, in its infancy, and then it was bought out by someone else, and they resurveyed, and if you remember, they came up with some lots that did not have enough front footage. If that had been in the county, there wasn't a thing that could be done. But because it was in the town, it went to our planning commission, and our planning commission had enough clout that says, we're not going to allow you to do that because we have guidelines that it needs to be X number of feet. And so they had to go back, and actually they lost a couple lots by having to resurvey to give that extra front footage. They also had agreed, in order to get that, to some additional buffering and
I remember that.
fencing, silk fencing and all during that. If you remember, they did it in stages, and we made them post bonds to do that. That would be the benefit of it being in the town. In the county,
I know it's the only protection these neighborhoods are gonna have.
right.
You know, this is Mr. Trussell requesting to be annexed in town.
Right,
Couldn't
because
we-
it's his property now.
Our town attorney, couldn't we stipulate he needs to stop logging and running through Waterford? And
I mean, you have known, one of the problems you have in regard to the archaic annexation laws of the state of South Carolina is that as municipal boundaries should legitimately expand, we are unable to do so. The only way those boundaries are able to expand is if the owners of the property see fit to ask to come into the town. So what you wind up with is problems such as we have here. An inability of local government to expand in the areas where it actually should be. Because our laws are so antiquated, we cannot expand municipal government except where we're asked to go. As a result of that, we have zero control of any type of what is done outside of our municipal boundaries. Therefore, you have absolutely no authority to do anything in Waterford or in the area owned by Mr. Trussell, which is not in the town. You can do nothing. Now, if our legislators would actually do what they ought to do and create annexation laws similar to North Carolina or Tennessee or Georgia, you would not have the problem with urban decay and urban sprawl that you have in the Midlands of South Carolina. As you know, I am a tree hugger extraordinaire. It breaks my soul to see a piece of property denuded like this. On the other hand, we should have been able long ago to expand our boundaries to this property, and we were unable to do so. Therefore, there is nothing you can do to stop what has already taken place or is taking place. Now, if you ever want to have any type of control in the future, the only thing you can do is to expand your boundaries when you have the opportunity to do so. In this case, we have a petition for annexation. You have legitimate opportunity, as Harvey said, to expand your boundaries. If you ever want to have any control over what's going on with this property, the only way you do that is to annex. Now, by the time you get the annexation done, the damage is probably already going to be done. But at least if you annex it, you take away, or at least give yourselves the right to have some say-so in what happens from this point forward. Therefore, I would highly recommend that you consider the possibility of annexing. On the other hand, you're in a posture where anything that is not taking place in our borders, we can't stop. You have public roads are entitled to be used by the public. They're open to the public, and you can't stop the public roads from being used by the public. The only way you're going to be able to correct this thing is to have jurisdiction over it to do something. You don't have any jurisdiction now. So you've got people out here who are neighbors who actually should be in the town for their own best interest, but they won't annex because they think that it's bad for some reason. They wouldn't, they think they're going to get taxed or something. But you have our neighbors who are on our borders who actually should have the good sense to annex the town, but they won't do it. And then when problems arise, they always come and say, oh, help us, help us, help us. We'd love to help you. The problem is we don't have the power to. Again, Marty's absolutely right. The damage has been done. If there's ever any good silver lining to a cloud, if you annex the property, then at that point in time you will have some say so. And that depends upon to whatever extent this one want to exert the authority. But you can't do anything until you get the property in. Could you pass a resolution saying, please stop cutting down the trees? Sure. And he can basically pass a resolution back saying, no. You simply have no control over what's not in your borders. I hope I answered the question.
You did. Thank you.
Can I just say?
This developer, can I talk to this developer for a second? You had mentioned that you said you're going to put about 160 houses out there, or a plan for 160?
Currently, it's the plan's between 150 and 175, so I just used the aggregate of that 160.
Do you need the town, do you need annexing to the town of Irmo to get this done, or can you do it through the county?
No, we can do it through the county. It's just the process with the town of Irmo is typically a little bit more pleasurable, a little bit easier, and a little quicker.
Okay.
That's the only advantage of going through the town of Irmo.
I think there's a couple issues too that a recommendation about trying to get Mr. Trussell not to stop. Again, it's his property. I have known of Mr. Trussell for many years. He's a very intelligent man, good businessman. I'm sure he looked at what he's doing there prior to get it done, prior to annexing into the town. If you tried to force him to stop, he could always pull his annexation petition as well, because it is a 100% annexation.
Well, that's true.
So our thing is, do you want to have control over it by annexing it
In the future,
or not?
Yeah.
Apparently, they don't need us to build their subdivision, so that's a moot point. They don't need us to bless them or give them a blessing on what they're doing now. That's a moot point. So there's really nothing. I mean, the only thing we can do is annex it in and see if we can control it from
And
its
see if
source.
we can help people that are buds.
And I would guess too, and I don't know what Lexington County stuff is like ours, but they may have a tree survey requirement too, where he got a tree survey, went out there and did whatever he does, and then clear cutted everything after that, which there may be something that says he's got to plant X amount of trees, or I don't know what.
Not that they've changed. I mean, Lexington's pretty liberal. They let
So
them
theirs
just-
ain't got the same as that, okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, if we do annex it, will we be able to require the developers to come through Irmo Drive as far as part of the thing, or can they still use that?
We'd have a hard time making them do that. We also have a hard time making them put a buffer up. I mean, again.
Because the ordinance says it's got to be this, and that's really all they got to.
And if they have a 10-foot buffer, which is what's required from RS to RS, and our requirement is not that they have to plant anything either.
Right.
So it could be just shrub. You can't build it. That's the purpose of buffers. You can't build in it.
But they don't have to add anything unless
You
they
don't necessarily
choose
have to add anything.
Okay.
So, I mean, we would not have a lot of authority.
Wasn't there something, I remember something in the past where we asked Mr. Trussell to annex in, and he didn't want to do it because it was.
He was trying for 18 years and he didn't want it.
Yeah, he didn't want
No,
to.
he didn't want anybody telling him what he could do on his property.
That's what it was, okay.
He still doesn't want to do it.
Okay.
We actually asked him to do it. So.
We're not asking him. It's all right.
All righty. Any more discussion on 1511? All in favor then of first reading to annex 1511, these, you said it was 3 properties?
There are 3 parcels there.
3 parcels.
Do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item is item D, approval with Sparrow Kennedy Tractor for the purchase of a John Deere Gator in the amount of $9,688.75. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would ask Mr. Klein, is this what you, are you replacing a unit or adding a unit?
This will be used in the community park.
It's already in the budget.
Designated employee over there, this is going to be the vehicle he'll use.
And this was in the budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Not a budget amendment, it's on state contract.
Right.
So,
I was just doing that for the public's knowledge.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of the approval of the Gator for $9,688.75, please show a show of hands. All opposed?
yes, you know, normally revised.
Next item is item E, discussion of possible amendments to the contract with advanced disposal, adding penalties, changing. And why I did this way is, one, instead of us, I just felt like if we discussed these 3 items separately or whatever, then we could decide, is any of these 3 items something we want to do? And if so, then the next thing would be under F, we make an approval of one of those. But to start this off, I got a call, well, got a few more, but got some last week again in regards to some misses and some different things. I think I looked at one of those reports from Vi a couple weeks ago that had a lot of stuff on it. I did see one morning, and I can't remember what morning it was. I can't remember if it was last week or this week, but I think it was last week. The advanced disposal truck coming through town with a whole bunch of bins on it. Just stacked full of it. So I felt like they were getting ready to go take care of all those bins that were on that one report. They needed, I don't know if it was 15 or 20 bins or whatever it was. But I've had, and I think is it Solomon? Solomon called last week, or actually emailed me, I think. And then I called him back and forth, we finally got. But in regards to the same thing, missing, different other things. So I felt like it's time for us to make a decision, as like you said, what are we going to do? And I know Bob had sent an email out one day last week, a week before, in regards to a penalty. And I think we'd got a response back that was too much or whatever. So I think we need to make a choice or decision how we're going to handle this. Are we going to continue as is? Are we going to say, okay, we're going to do a penalty thing from now on out? If it's not all handled, not all picked up, we charge a penalty. So much per home, I guess, or whatever it would be. Are we going to change to a 2-day-a-week? I know I've met with Hardy and is it Doug Phelps. We met a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago. Things got better and then they went back to the same. I think I've got a lady over on Western Lane that calls me every so often. She hadn't called in a couple weeks about yard trash not getting picked up.
Mr. Mayor, could we just have, I think we need to keep our garbage company.
I think in a way too. I don't want to rebid it, but at the same time, I'm kind of tired of all these phone calls and all this complaints.
Let Wednesday, of course, be the day of pickup, but have the second day, the very next day, in the event someone's garbage gets missed, that day is the day to get the garbage.
Well, it is, but they don't always get it on Thursday.
Sometimes it's Friday,
sometimes it rolls into Friday, and sometimes it rolls into Saturday.
In Carmel Commons 2 weeks ago, it wasn't picked up on Wednesday, and I called for everyone on Wandering Brook from the curve in the road around. And then Thursday, it did not happen either, and I called again. And finally, Friday night at 7:45, it was picked up.
All right, so these phone calls, they go, the complaints, and
they're going straight to Advanced.
They were coming to town hall, now they're going to Advanced, but then once they get an answer from Advanced and it doesn't happen, they're calling back to town hall.
And then they're calling me.
Or they email me. You know.
Things they ought to call the mayor and I can
I've
fix
never
it,
had so many communications.
Well,
yeah,
there was a software program that you talked about a long time ago.
Because, I mean, their goal was to try to get everything within 24 hours. I mean, I know that's their standing goal.
Look, it's going to be a tracking method and a follow-up somehow.
Right, it just isn't working totally, 100%.
And I think part of the problem too, and this is my opinion, and I know we spoke that day, and I think there were some other municipalities that they said are bigger than Irmo, and they pick them up in a day, whatever. And it may be that in those areas
they may pay more too.
They may have 50 guys and 50 trucks. They may have 20 guys and 20 trucks here at this casting. I don't know. But it still appears to me that 4,400 homes cannot be picked up. Yard trash, recyclables, and household all in one day. And to me, that means either they need another truck, another route, a couple more, 2 or 3 more guys, whatever. They need more people to get it all done in one day. Or we just go to 2 days. Let them pick up everything on the side of Lake Meridian one day and everything on the other side of Lake Meridian the next, or St. Andrews, however we divide it.
We got to do something.
But do 2 days and just be done with it. I know that's going to put a burden on their other schedules, but again, if I get 3 or 4 calls Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I get to the point where I don't care what their schedule is. I care about my schedule, and I care about me not having to, and I'm sure the same thing for Vi. Because they get frustrated. People get frustrated, and they say, well, I've called Vi's turned it in, I've called Advance, and nothing's happening, so I'm calling you. And kind of like this gentleman, I told him to come because we had a couple of emails, phone calls back and forth. And something needs to get done.
And it hits every neighborhood. I mean, I've heard from a former council member in Hill Creek about 8 times since January, February. I've heard from every neighborhood where I know people, including
and
my
it seems to rotate.
Yeah, it's not the same spot.
Yeah, it's not the same spot, but even my own. So there's a problem. I understand the labor problem. I understand it's hard to keep the trucks running and keep them stay, I know that. But we still got to pick up the garbage.
And obviously something has happened. Has anybody asked advance what's going on or what, try to address it?
Bob?
Yeah.
They're not too far away.
I mean, we've had a meeting with them, they come to our meetings, and I think they
I
changed
mean,
people
obviously
and all that kind of stuff.
obviously something's happened. I mean, it's not like they said, we're not gonna pick the garbage up and just to be mean.
Well, we went
Something's happened.
from 5 days to 1 day, and I think it was good.
Whose bright idea was that?
That was their idea.
Yeah, when they rescheduled the whole
It was a
period.
good idea, if you can do it.
It's just, it ain't getting done in 1 day. And like they said too, it's not rocket science. You send people out, they pick it all up, you move on.
Like
But
Paul-
it's not getting done.
I mean, like Paul said, it's a tracking thing because management, they want to get it all done, but it's the guys out there in the truck that aren't doing it.
And I think.
Well, you got a couple of issues. You got the volume of houses you have to go to, and then you have the actual, mechanical, the dump truck itself. You know, you have one guy on a truck as opposed to two guys on a truck. And what I understand and what I see is that the guys drive down the street and this little arm comes out and picks the garbage can up and throw it out. And when he puts it back, if he drops something on the ground, he may or may not get out of his truck to clean it up. You know, if he does, he does. If he doesn't, he just keeps rolling. But I guess that's because of the technology or whatever advances implemented in us.
But that's on the household. The other trucks, the recyclable, there is a guy on the truck that throws that can in and dumps it and puts it back, and in the household.
No, that's still automated.
It's all over.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
the
you
yard
got
trash.
The yard trash where they got somebody.
On the recyclables, couldn't that maybe be pushed back to maybe once a month? It takes me about a month to fill my can
No,
up.
it's-
There's people that fill them up in 3 or 4
Ours pulls
days.
about every
Come
week.
on.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lot of them. I see theirs, because I can, the lid's not always shut where theirs is full up and down the road where it's just not always full. You need to be recycling more.
Oh, well,
One of
Some
the,
want more, some of them want.
Yeah, we got, one neighbor's got 2.
She wants, that we get a lot of calls all the time. wanting
Yeah, they
to-
got 2 recycling things. 'Cause they
wonderful.
well, I think Hardy told us one time when I asked about recycling, that we had a fantastic recycling here. It actually reduced what they had to pick up in garbage. But one of the issues with their automated system, that lets that truck move a lot faster until
There's a car
he
parked.
pulls up to a house and they've got the Herbie Kirby there and 3 bags of garbage. Then that driver has to put it in park. He's already lifted the Herbie Kirby. He's got to put it in park, come around, get the bags, put them in, and now he has slowed down. And he isn't finishing his route in time.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. It's got to be a situation where the manpower and the technology that we're implementing here is not going to work for us.
Well, and I think in
Can I
that
say one
situation,
thing here?
It doesn't make sense.
You guys talking about, first of all, you're talking about the truck with the arm that picks up and dumps the trash. I haven't seen that truck in my neighborhood for 6 months. I mean, the guys come along, and what it is, in my case, they'll pick up the trash across the street, and they'll pick up the trash just from here, but they won't bother with this can. Now, I live in I don't live in an alley someplace. I live on Shedford Road, right at the end of Chillingham. Now, that truck will come down and it'll back right down, in front of my house and stop and pick up the garbage can across the street and then go on down the street and pick up the rest of them. It won't touch mine. And then when they do pick it up, there's always 2 guys on the truck. One guy driving and 2 guys picking up the cans. And they pick up the can, dump it in the truck, dump the stuff all over the street. It's not the hydraulic truck that's dumping it, it's the guys. It's pure neglect. And dumping the trash, and then they look at it, maybe kick it under the truck or kick it off to the curb. I watch them. A lot of times I flag them down, say, hey, you guys, come back here. My neighbor does the same thing. And it's just a problem. Now, there should be some kind of penalty for these people that are doing this. I don't know if it'd do any good to get another company or find the company that's doing this now, you know, or reimburse the town of Irmo, or reimburse the customers that are paying the taxes. If they miss my trash can, okay, I shouldn't have to call them every month, you know, you guys missed my trash. They say, okay, we'll send somebody out, we got 48 hours. So 48 hours later, they'll come along with another truck and pick up the trash, you know. That's not the point. You know, they should be, you know, fined, or, you know, that money taken away from them, instead of just letting them get away with it. That's the point. That's what makes me so mad.
So, I guess back to council, do y'all think we should work on a penalty, section, clause, whatever you want to call it, or do you think we ought to work towards changing the 2-day? Because that issue you were talking about a while ago with things slowing down, that may be why they can't get everything in one day. I don't know.
I think you need to let Advanced Disposal tell us what their suggestion is.
Well, I think they told us twice that they were going to do better and get it done.
They didn't tell me. I'd like to hear it from them.
I heard them at a council meeting a couple months ago, and
An amendment, everybody's got to
I mean,
sign it anyways.
I've heard
What did you hear at a council meeting a couple months ago?
that they were going to get it fixed, and they were making changes, and they were going to put another route on the yard trash. They
Okay, so
were
did they do
changing
that?
some
Did
employees
they do
that were
that?
doing that. No. All I know is I keep getting calls from people.
But did they do
that are
that?
not
Did they do
happy.
the changes?
Evidently they didn't, or we wouldn't get the call.
I don't know that.
That's
Why
all
don't
I
you
know.
ask Advanced Disposal if they did those things?
Well, I don't have to. I got a citizen right here that says they're not picking up. I got the list right here, and I get numerous phone calls. I know, I've heard enough. That's what I know.
Yeah, but that's unreasonable. At least people, you
It's
know,
not
obviously-
unreasonable to
It is
ask them
unreasonable.
to
These
do
guys
what
probably
they
have-
contracted to do in a day's time, which is pick everything up in one day. If they can't do it in one day, fine, let's go to 2 days.
Well, that's
But if
fine,
you do it
but
in
I
one day,
mean,
let's do it in one
you
day.
can tell them to go to 3 days a week. But if they don't have the solution, if they don't come up with a solution, it's for a moot point.
Well,
You need to ask Advance to participate and tell us what the
our
solution
contract
is.
says they're supposed to pick up everything in one day.
You know, that's fine, you can be cut and dry like that, but I think you need to engage
Well,
in
we
the
work with it, and
contract.
I'm willing to work too, but I think they need to
Then ask
get
them.
it done.
Well, since this is a
Can y'all get it done
discussion-
in one day?
Is
That's
this
what I'm
representative
asking.
from Advance Disposal back
All
there?
right, then I'm gonna ask the second question is why not in the last 2 months? This simple,
I'll tell you something else we can do,
Okay.
and you're right, we had, last Wednesday, we did have some problems. Well, last Wednesday, we had some problems. That's when we had the candy car pile up with the fuel tanker that blew up, that was right outside our depot. So we
Right.
had a 4-hour delay getting our trucks out.
Wednesday.
The guys,
Yeah.
the guys we've got coming over, we've improved, I think, drastically. We still have some issues. But they called me last week around 8 o'clock and they said, hey, can we stay out and finish this? Because usually I make them come back in under 14 hours. This was a special circumstance. So they wanted to stay out and make sure they finished the town of Irmo, which I thought was a great thing, that them guys, it's their job, so they care. You know, they care. They don't want to lose the town of Irmo, so they care. Do we have some issues? Yes, we still have a few issues. I have put some things in place. It takes a little bit of time, but well, I added another supervisor. He started 2 weeks ago. He's going through his training. He's retired military. His background's all military police, investigation, and following and determining and troubleshooting. Brought him on, and he'll be actually physically out in the streets next week. He's an additional supervisor, not just a replacement. He's an additional one. So we can, and his whole thing is going to be focusing on, kind of like the Elmer. You know, Elmer had a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
We worked through that. I really thought the one you mentioned earlier, I can't remember the town.
Britt on Western Lane.
Yeah, I went over and met with them.
And she hasn't
I thought we had them taken care of too. But are there ever going to be issues? We're a service industry. There's going to be some issues. I feel like that since I've been here, I've responded to any requests. You know, the mayor's called me a couple of times. We jumped right on it. Some of these other ones, and I'm sorry, I never heard of yours before, but I'll dig into
Well,
it.
it's a constant thing.
Right.
Me and my neighbor, you know, we have him and I are calling probably at least once a month, both of us. And you know, he's the kind of guy that he'll see the truck going down the road, he'll run after him, you know?
Right.
And he'll get the guys to come back and clean it up.
And those are the areas that we we need to know about it, and I'll put on that hot list, and we'll
Well, you
have
do
one
know
follow up.
about it because I've called advance, 6 or 7 times since January, just this year, not talking about last year. And my neighbor has called, I know, as many times.
Right.
It don't do any good.
Those things like that, and the way I did with Elmer and on the other one, we gotta just baby those through until we get them figured out why. Elmer's one of the things was it wasn't on his street; it was on his little cul-de-sac up the side. So a new guy goes down the street, he doesn't go down that cul-de-sac. So there was a few little issues with that, but there's no problem here that we can't fix. I think we should stick with one day, and if something, in the short term, I have no problem at all running that split body truck over here on Thursday. And if there are misses, we'll clean them up on Thursdays. If there's something
What do you call
happens.
it? What kind of truck is that?
It's a split body truck, and I mentioned it last time, and I do have them both here now. It's a 60-40 split. So 60% of the truck you can put trash on, the other part is a separate body, and you can put recycle on.
Oh.
So that one truck can come over here and he can get 3 recycle misses and 5 trash misses. No problem at all. But we have the ability to fix, sorry.
How many trucks are assigned to Irmo?
14.
And at a previous meeting, someone spoke about this camera that videotapes.
That's a video. We have it's a drive cam, and that's going to help us like I was talking about when we're tracking these things. We got a drive cam that leaves a cookie trail. So wherever it goes, the GPS marks where it goes to. So when someone does call in and say, hey, you've missed us, first thing Sue does, she does a great job, she's my dispatcher, she looks it up on drive cam, and she can say, well, we went down your road at 9:45 yesterday morning. So we can tell if we went down the road. Now that doesn't always mean that we got their trash. And here's what happens, it's like again, it's a service industry. Our guys going down the road, they're not magicians, and there's a big truck parked in front of a little pile of yard waste. They're probably not going to see it. They're going to probably drive by it because they don't see it. And then that truck loads the lawnmowers up, and he drives one down the road, and the homeowner says, hey, my yard waste is missed. Those things are going to happen. That's just, it happens everywhere across the United States. Those things will happen. But our response, I think our response is good, and I think it will even get better. And I'm willing to do this thing on Thursdays with the split body until you guys get confidence that we can do the one-day thing. And if later down the road we decide we don't want to do the one-day thing, we probably need to actually flip it all the way back like it was, because I can't it takes 14 trucks. So I can't move 7 trucks to another day, or I have to go buy 7 trucks. My other days are full, but I could split it up. I don't think it benefits anybody to do that. And I think like I said, I think we can fix your problem. I think adding that supervisor is going to help. He can control the hot spots. And I told Bob and the mayor both, don't hesitate to give someone my cell number. Let them call me on my cell phone. We'll take care of their problems. I have no problem with that. We just, I just need a little more time. I've been here about 5 months now. I just need a little more time.
So you can have it picked up before Saturday or Friday.
Yeah. Here's what we say: 24 hours. Only way it wouldn't happen, and I know the one street that was a big blow up, they didn't call us till Friday and say they was missed. And we picked them up Friday. We got out there and we got them picked up Friday, but we didn't know about it till Friday. So yeah, it did go from Wednesday to Friday.
Is that
but we didn't know about it.
Is that Wandering Brook and Carmel Commons?
It was 20 homes. What was it, Bob? 28 homes?
Carmel Commons.
Okay.
No, you got to call Wednesday from me, Thursday from me, and Friday from me.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
Now, I told her I did not say I'm on Irmo Town Council because that's tacky.
No, that's fine.
But I called to tell her Wandering Brook hadn't been picked up.
And we got calls, and Vi got the call, and she called Sue. So, there were a lot of communications from Thursday and Friday, before it got picked up.
Thursday and Friday. Okay, so when I asked them about it, they said they got notified Friday morning.
I had to send an email, and then all of a sudden,
right,
got picked
Now,
up.
and I've talked.
Right, I got your email Friday. Right.
I've talked to your lady, and she's very accommodating.
Sue?
Yes.
She's very good. Yeah.
I think there's a breakdown somewhere, but I don't think it's Sue because she was writing down everything I said. So.
Okay, and then again, this other guy I'm bringing in will help me with that. Will help us dissect those issues. It's not that. It's 4,400 homes, so it's not that big a contract.
No.
And so right now I have 2 supervisors over here each day. I'm putting the third one on I think we can handle this. We just got to see a little more time.
Well, the thing that Paul brought up, if it's not picked up Wednesday, and somebody calls first thing Thursday morning, let's say by 12 or something, can y'all have that truck over here by 12 going through and picking up everything?
Yeah, we could schedule however y'all see it's best to do it. We can say, wait till Thursday afternoon to run it over here. That way we give people time to call in Thursday morning. However this best works.
You said 24 hours, and I think he said
48, but I think we
48 hours. It took them on last Tuesday. I called them at 10 minutes after 5 and told them, and they said, well, we'll be there to pick it up. So Thursday they didn't come. Friday about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the truck came and picked the stuff up.
Because I think, we talked about contract earlier. I think the contract calls 24 hours. After 24 hours, you can penalize us $5 per home, which kind of breaks it down into, if it was, you pay like $17, I think, for 3 services, so it's like about $5.50 a service is what it breaks down to. And that's the reason the big number, that'd be 20 months worth of fines for that one service.
Well, we're trying to get your attention.
Yeah. So, but if you, like I said, bear with me a little bit, I think we can get this.
We really would appreciate it if you take care of this.
I will definitely. I'll give him my card and he'll have my cell number. So that'd be no problem whatsoever.
Let me understand something. You telling me that you can definitely do it in one day.
Yeah, in one day is not an issue.
And that's what y'all prefer to have it in one day.
And here's the reason for us, and this is just an advanced disposal reason. We got to set up now, we run about 33 routes a day. And that's counting your 14 on Wednesday. So we take your 14 and say 7 and 7. So now I'm running 40 on Thursday, and I'm running 26 on Wednesday. So it just makes it all out of whack. And we all together, our 14 trucks, that's about a $3 million investment. And then the little green pretty Irmo cans, that was like a $300,000 investment. So we got a lot invested in your community.
So you're saying that you guys got 14 trucks dedicated to the town of Irmo?
On Wednesday, yep.
And you got 14 routes in
Yes.
Irmo? Is that right?
Yep.
The entire town of Irmo only has 14 routes in it. And what's a route? What is
it depends. Like the ones with the arms he's talking about, the automated routes, those trucks can pick up about 1,200 homes in a day. The rear loaders with the yard waste, it depends on what time of season it is. When it's summer and it's thin, they can really cover a lot of ground.
So they're not all the same trucks then?
No, they're different types of trucks. You got arms for the trash, you got rear loaders for the yard waste, and recycle goes both ways.
How do you determine which truck to use and what route? In other words,
they're set routes.
You got that automated arm in my route because I've seen it, but why is that not the two guys lifting a can up? Why'd you pick that instead of the guy lifting a can up?
Well, it's just the geography, I guess you would say. If you got where the cans can be out to the road, where the truck can go by safely and reach out and grab them and dump them, that's what we want to do. Some places, I think altogether in Irmo, there's either 26 or 29 cul-de-sacs in Irmo. So some of those we try to use rear loaders a little bit more, just for the turning radiuses. So it just depends.
Well, I'm hearing you say, and I want to be clear about it in my mind, you guys can handle one day pickup. That's what you prefer. And if you have enough hardware, enough trucks and manpower to handle it in one day. So all these issues we're having now with people not picking up the trash and people getting missed over and stuff like that, that should lessen in the next couple of months, right?
It will lessen, and I'll never promise you guys that you'll never have any issues. Again,
no, that's fine. I mean,
but we will get, it will be good. I think altogether we do about 60,000 services a month for your town.
Okay, right now we got that report that comes out from VI. That's about what? That comes out once a week.
She said.
Once a week.
Yeah. So if you drill down, it will probably have less than probably 1/10 of 1% of actual failures. If you look at the big scope, and which is the industry average, it's a pretty good number. But we can tighten it up over here. We can get better. But it's still right now we're not bad. I don't want to say we're bad, we can get better.
Well, this week it is better. I mean, there's only 8 on there or something like that, I can't remember. So that's better than...
So 8 out of, how many a week would that be? 8 out of 4?
That's 4,000 customers.
So about 14,000 customers, 14,000 services we missed. We had 8 issues.
Well, that's sort of misleading. Sometimes we'll get one call, might miss a whole street.
Right.
We only get one call.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was one thing I was going to ask, and I can't remember now. My mind just slipped. But
And keep in mind that, you know, when we're doing 3 different touches at every home, unless there's no yard waste, but that's 12,000 actual touches for each home. That's 12,000 chances to make a mistake.
You pick up one can that's 25 yards, and then another can 25 yards away, and there's one over here 10 yards away. You pick up that one, you pick up this one, and you don't pick up that one. Now that's just pure being inept, you know, whoever's doing the job.
Yep.
And whoever sets up these routes. I don't know, it's just not right. It's not, you know, I sit here, I'm home all day, I'm retired, I don't work. I got nothing to do, I bag my garbage very neatly, put the cans out there nice, my recyclables, and put everything out, make sure everything's really clean, put it out there to the curb. Then I sit here and I watch the truck drive by, pick up your neighbors, and then back up and put it on the road and pick up the rest of them.
We're going to take care of that. I guarantee it. In fact, Doug and I both are going to give you a card that's got our number on it if you ever have a problem.
My son.
From now on, you call that cell number or his cell number.
And don't
I guarantee it.
You aren't doing that in Texas.
And they'll get the mayor, and he'll take care of it.
one thing I remember what it was, the tagging of the yard trash. And I've had a few complaints where people call, they don't pick up this, they don't pick up this. And then I might ride by and look at it, like there's one down the road from me now. And a neighbor said something to me about they don't pick up the neighbor's yard, the limbs. And I said, well, are they 4 by 4? And he goes, no. And I told the neighbor. And I said, they're still sitting out the road? And he said, like they're sitting out the road, and the neighbor says they're not cutting them. And I said, well, have they been tagged by Advance? And they're like, no, there's no tag on them. So that might be something y'all need to work on too, because if that neighbor is thinking, they ain't picking it up, I don't know why, and there's no tag on it telling them it's not the right proportions, then they just leave it.
Okay, that'd be something I can follow up on, make sure that, because sometimes we do tag and I'm sure they go right in the trash. But I'll make sure I'll reiterate that they should tag them.
Okay.
And we stress this too. You know, we do have our little regulations, 4 foot, all the little different things.
But many
I told my guys
to pick that up, and the length of time it take them to get out of the truck.
That's what I told them. I said, if it's close or if it ain't crazy, I said, pick it up.
Keep going.
Now, one thing they can't do is the 4 inches we have to be pretty critical of because you'll bust their blades. But the other stuff I told them is, if it's, just pick it up. If it, you know, unless it's just crazy, just pick it up.
Doug, could I request that Advanced Disposal maybe write a letter or email Bob what you're going to do to make these improvements? You just gave this gentleman your phone number. I'm sure we have that. I just want to make sure everything's the same so we can communicate that to our citizens.
Yeah.
We'd like to have, I would think, something in writing based on what you're telling us tonight.
That's no problem at all.
Yeah, really. Okay. We had something in writing before?
No, I'm talking, Carver's asking if we had it on Channel 2, and we do have the requirements and the, you know, on Channel 2.
Yeah, it is on Channel 2. Yeah.
You're talking about the size of the stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But you're talking about just getting a letter back from him that he's going to do.
Yeah,
what they're going to do
so
for
we
us.
know, yeah.
So,
okay.
And this day thing, I don't know if that was going to be settled. Is he going to expand it to several days?
No, we don't want to.
Yeah, that was, I just put on there so we could have something to discuss about it and make a decision or not make a decision or do an approval or not do an approval. But
I don't, you know, they don't want to do it, and I don't, you know, I want them to come up with a plan and give it back to us. Like you said, write a letter to us explaining what your plan of action is, course of action is going to be. Give it to us, we can look at it. We got a benchmark today at 8 complaints is today. We come back a month from now, we still have 8 complaints, then your benchmark is not working.
Well, eight's still not bad. I mean, before we had 30 or 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
Age is full.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is an improvement.
Like I said,
like that.
come on.
That'd be a hard benchmark right there to set.
I like that when I saw that.
Well, I mean, that's fine if you want to do that, but I mean, I wouldn't want to hold you to that, but I mean, just come up with a plan, let us see it.
Okay, I'm sure will.
I'm not unreasonable to say, hey, we've grown, the town has grown, and you guys, you know, you're doing a lot in one day. And I admit, 4,000 houses in one, actually said 12,000 touches in one day.
Well, see, like last month, though, and this is where it all kind of goes together, when I was talking about 30-some routes a day.
Yeah.
We did 640,000 services last month.
Oh.
We do almost all of Lexington County. We do 2 districts in Richland County, Chapin, here, Batesburg, Leesville. We do, and the same team that runs all Batesburg, Leesville on Monday. And
how many calls you get from them?
Very, very few. We actually got a big hurrah from them because and that's what they did the calculations. That was 1/10 of 1%, and that's the same guys that's running over here. So I think we need to do a little more on our supervisory side and make sure we're not setting some of our stuff up to fail over here. Maybe some roads maybe shouldn't be automated that are automated, or vice versa. But we can dig into those little pieces. But it's the same group that's doing a great job other places, and trash is trash. So it shouldn't be that complicated.
That was one thing like that. I would hope that somehow, some way down the road, that we could work it out to provide garbage service for our businesses. Give them reduced price, possibly. That'd be a great help to them if it's, you know, I would think we need to have some committee to study it, but that's what, you know.
We could definitely help you with that. We run 7 commercial trucks every day, so we could definitely help you. We've helped other communities with that. So it is a good thing, and it does save them money because you can loop it all together. So it is.
But it would be detrimental if a restaurant garbage did not get picked up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
All right, I'll give you all my card. If you have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
And the next one is the approval, and we can just ask for a motion or ask for a...
Defer that.
Well, you can just ask for a, what did you call it, and not get a approval and then it's dead.
Okay.
Just don't make a motion.
Yeah, just gonna make a motion. So is there a motion for approval or amendment to the contract with Advanced Disposal? None. Next item is an approval of a letter to Richland County Sheriff requesting the findings of the Oak Strut investigation. And Mr. Walker, you placed it on the agenda. I'll let you go.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. We had some conversations with the sheriff about this Oak Strut investigation, criminal investigation, and it seems that it was done and then it wasn't done, and then I don't know what the deal is, but I think it's time for us to come to a head on this and get a conclusion, get a final letter written. On your draft that you see in front of you, you got down here, this is to Sheriff Lott from the town of Irmo. Actually, what I was hoping to do is write it from Bob Brown and carbon copy the council, as well as Chairman of Richland County Council. On this letter.
Well, you said you had a conversation with Sheriff Lott. What did he tell you?
He said it wasn't complete, and then we got from Al Dozier, we got this information that was complete. And like I said, when you called him up, and I don't know what you told him or what was said, but all of a sudden it wasn't complete again.
Well, it wasn't ever complete in the first place. I thought you just said Sheriff Lott told you it wasn't complete.
Yeah, he said it was not complete on the last time I talked to him. That's when, what was it, 2 months ago, Harvey? You went up there? He said it should have been done in the next couple of weeks, or that was 2 months ago.
I saw him at Brian's retirement, and he said it had to go to 2 other departments and then it would be sent out. He was very forthcoming and very honest.
That was when?
At Brian's retirement, May the 15th, or 14th, or whatever, I don't know, whatever day it was.
That was 2 weeks ago.
And I understand he's on vacation this week, so I think all of this is understandable. I have trouble writing a man like Sheriff Lott or Sheriff anybody, and saying, we want you to do this, and copying Richland County Council. This man hadn't done anything wrong. He's just looking into the orchestra. Why should we try to intimidate him?
We're intimidating him by asking for a copy of the report?
He told me at Brian's thing, it had to go through 2 departments and then it would be released.
But it was released to Al, and then...
No, it wasn't released.
Al, do you have a copy of it?
What I did is I called the sheriff's department, and Lieutenant Curtis Wilson told me the investigation found no wrongdoing. He called back 2 hours later and said, I'm sorry, I told you wrong, it's still under investigation.
So Curtis called you back, or Captain Hughes?
Curtis.
Okay, because I think you told me Captain Hughes called back. But
The spokesman is Curtis Wilson, I believe.
yeah, he's the spokesman. But you're saying Curtis, or not Curtis, but Captain Hughes didn't call you back?
The person I talked to was Lieutenant Curtis.
Okay.
But I feel sure that's where the report is, and I don't want to write some kind of intimidating letter to the sheriff of anywhere.
Well, it's not intimidating, it's just asking for a copy of the report.
You want to send a copy to Richland County Council for what?
No, the chairman of Richland County Council.
Well, we don't need to, I don't believe we need to do that. I think we know where the report is, and I think the man's doing it.
Well, I don't know what the report is. You guys keep saying you know what a report is, and nobody seems to know what it is.
I think we know.
Except for you and Harvey.
No, he told me, and he would have
So what's the
told you.
deal? Why don't you and Hardy share the report? That's all I'm asking for is a copy of the report.
We ain't got it.
You got a copy of the preliminary report, don't you?
We're not talking about the preliminary.
I'm talking about the preliminary report. You got a copy of the preliminary report, don't you? Why don't you share that?
Because there's nothing on that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's
The
nothing on
man
that.
was here, and he answered my questions. He would have answered yours too.
And, I mean, y'all can do what you want to. All I'm saying is, I got an email from Captain Hughes that said the thing hasn't been done, it isn't final.
Let me see a copy of the email.
And then Sheriff Lott is on vacation, and when Sheriff Lott gets back, Captain Hughes is meeting with Sheriff Lott, and they're going to discuss this, and then when that discussion is through, they'll let me know what the status is.
Well, that was 2 weeks ago. Let me see a
No,
copy of the
that
email.
was Friday or Saturday, after, what day did you call me, Wednesday or Thursday? Yeah, because you ran that story Thursday, and then y'all took it off, and then you ran it again Friday, and then you took it back down again. Because I think Kirk said it's not even on the internet anymore.
I took it off, we ran, and then he took it off. I called him, but I think you're right. I think I saw it later too.
It came back on again because Bob got a copy of it and sent it out to everybody, and then Kirk said they took it back down because it's not accurate, or so to speak. The report's not final, nor the, I don't know about the investigation. All I know is they said it's not final. But I don't care what you're going to do. I'm not going to sign it because I think it's kind of crazy to ask somebody to send it to, whatever if it's not through.
Well, we discussed this letter. I'm fine with sending it. About referring to a preliminary report, I think that's unnecessary to say that. All we want them to send us the final report, period. And to Sheriff Lott, no one else. Sheriff, that's it. Richland County Chairman, that's not necessary. It's the sheriff. It's just, but a simple letter, just, we want it. I don't understand either why it's been taking so long. But the preliminary report, I don't think that's necessary to know that, but.
That before they release it, they're going to make sure all the dots are.
Even though I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
But
I want to see the final report.
You haven't seen it either?
I have not seen anything from Sheriff
I don't
Lott.
believe anybody's seen it.
You saw it.
So.
What?
So I guess you can pass that letter around. Anybody wants to put their name on it can and mail it. I don't know.
So why can it not come from Bob? I mean,
that's what I said. I said it should come from Bob and carbon copy the council.
I mean, I don't need to send a letter to the sheriff. I already found out the report's not available yet. Found that out last week from...
You're sending a letter requesting a copy of the report.
We'll get the report.
And you're being instructed from council to do that. That's what we're telling you to do.
No, you're telling him to do.
I haven't heard the council tell me to do anything yet.
Well, listen. We'll tell you what to do in a second.
So we ready to vote then? Any more discussion? All in favor of the approval of the letter as it is written here to send to Richland County
No, I
Sheriff?
said make some changes to it. It needs to be carbon copy to CC to all members of council and have it covered from Bob.
Well, what we got right here is no changes, so is there some amendments you want to make to it?
I don't think I spoke Chinese. You heard what I said. I want to
Will
come
you
from
pick out
Bob.
what changes? Can I call you? I'll give you some changes to put on there.
I haven't heard a second to the changes. You're going to make an amendment?
I would put on there, some people on Irmo Town Council would like to get a final report. How about that? There's a change. How about,
Yeah, you don't want a final report. Why? It's not going to say what you want to say. I mean,
I'm gonna get one when it's through. I'm not worried about it. When
Maybe,
it's through, it's
maybe
through. I'll
we'll
get
just
one.
ask, when does he anticipate it? Just, sending us a report.
And that could be done with a call from Bob.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
let us
you
know
could
when.
well, he
Of course,
told
he's
us
on
that
vacation.
3 months ago.
Well, I haven't, has it been formally in a writing?
We sat in the man's office and he said it'll be done in a couple of weeks.
Well, okay, well.
Well, he was here in
Told
the middle
you,
of
but
May.
I didn't hear that, so that's what,
He was here in the middle of
communication's
May.
getting lost. It
Yeah,
is.
and said it would be.
That's why you put it in writing and just have him send it out and get it done.
Just when will we receive the letter, period? I don't know.
Yeah, you can ask them, when do they think the investigation will be through and when the report will be final and blah, 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 blah.
Even though, Bob, you're looking at it, it's like they're not going to respond to that, is that right?
I mean, I trust Sheriff Lott. He's been there for a long time, and when he gets through his report, I suspect he's going to send it to us.
Not necessarily. You heard me send it to Hardy and it won't say, Hardy won't release it, so why do you suspect he's going to send it to us?
Because at that point, it'd be a part of public record.
Yeah,
Why
when
is
the
it
final
moving
report is
public
sent
record?
out, and it's a finished investigation, it'll be part of the public record and anybody can get a copy of it.
Then why is the preliminary report is not part of
Because
the
the
public record?
investigation's not over and they don't comment on ongoing investigations.
But you got a copy of the preliminary report, right?
Yeah, the preliminary is just kind of like, hey.
So why don't you release that?
I've already told you, you're not interested in knowing what's on it, you just want to be whatever, so I'm not going to go along with that. And I'll say this, for instance, when you answer that man's questions right there, I'll start answering yours.
What
And
man's
since
question?
you want to bring up some questions, let me ask you something. In 2013 and 14 Orchestra, you didn't pay a booth fee or a percentage. Why don't you tell us who gave you authority to do that and why? And go back to his questions before.
Yeah, but genius, listen.
He wanted to know about those tax liens. Have you straightened all that mess out?
Yeah, but genius, what about the fact that, we provided a service for the orchestra and didn't charge a dime for it?
So did those other vendors. I'm just wondering why
No,
you
they
didn't pay. Yeah, they did. All those
We never
vendors
had a
provided
booth.
the service.
I never had a booth. I mean, my wife had one, but we never did.
Whatever.
Since you
Like
want
I
to
say,
be
when you can
specific about it.
answer a citizen's questions, I'll answer yours.
But I answered it. You want to answer the one about the
I think he asked you about some liens too. Are they all straight?
What does that got to do with the citizens?
He asked you some questions. I want to know the answers, and you ignored him, I'm going to ignore you. Simple as that.
That was alleged that you may be a pedophile, but then is there any back?
Probably not.
Okay then.
We're not going to get into pedophile, we're not going to do this. No. I
So
call for
you got
adjournment.
a good idea of the phone call or the question or the letter?
It'll be a real simple letter, just asking him when he thinks the investigation will be completed, and we'll get a copy of the report for town council.
That'd be nice.
Carbon copy, council on it, council. And it's from you on town stationery.
So we got an amendment to this letter, and
Well, Paul and Barry just said, keep it, you just want to know when the investigation's going to be over with, and would like a copy of the investigation, report.
I mean, what's wrong with what you said right there?
Well, this is
Well,
going
because
to
you're asking me to send the letter, I'm going to send it in my words, not yours.
That's right.
I think your words will be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with the words that's on there?
Well, I'm not aware of any criminal investigation. I have not
What do you
seen.
mean you're not aware of it? That's what it is, a criminal. The sheriff doesn't investigate anything unless it's a criminal act.
If it was criminal, it would go to SLED. All he
No, it wasn't. The sheriff investigates criminal activity. He doesn't investigate civil stuff, he investigates criminal activity.
Well, you've
So
heard
it's
a
a
lot.
criminal investigation orchestra.
You've heard a lot more than I have. I haven't heard anything about a criminal investigation.
What does the sheriff of Richland County investigate?
Primarily enforces the law.
Criminal investigations.
Most often will investigate to see whether or not there has been a violation.
That's it. Okay, thank you, Jake.
So,
If you, and again, you didn't ask me this, but if you're going to send a letter to the sheriff, I'll let everybody, but there's no reason to send a copy to the county councilman. But the county council has no control over the sheriff.
He's elected.
Yeah, he's elected.
But, you know, if you're going to send a letter, compose it and just say, can you give us an idea, please, we're going to wrap this up. It's creating some difficulties now. We need to know something.
I think that's what Bob's going to do.
I think Bob can do that. And actually, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just like Jerry Clower, shoot up in there amongst us, one of us got to have some relief. You know, go backwards or forward or something, but just sitting there doing nothing is creating havoc, and it's got the mayor and Mary back to kill each other. The board is there, it needs to stop. We need to get a resolution to this, or at least know when it's going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with taking that quick.
so before we approve this letter, what was on here, we need to amend it, that instead of approving the letter to Richland County, whatever, we're going to amend it to whatever Bob just wrote, roughly, and amend it that Bob writes a letter.
What did Bob write?
You guys will all get a copy of it.
So I'm going to make an
What
amendment.
did you write? I don't know what you wrote.
I haven't written anything yet.
So what am I going to amend it to what you wrote? I don't know what you wrote. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, we can just vote on this right now then, approval of the letter that's in our package. All in favor of sending this letter that's in this package, do so with show of hands.
With the changes that we talked about.
No, this is just this one here, we've not made any amendments to it. Because that's what's on our thing, and this is this one. Now, we can amend it and say, vote on whatever Bob's going to do, or amend it and say, instead of the letter to Richland County, we're going to approve that, and I'm going to make this amendment, y'all can second it. I'm going to make an amendment that we approve Bob sending a letter to Richland County Sheriff's Department requesting
At his
a
discretion.
status on the investigation and when it will be complete,
okay.
whatever. So, whatever that is, I hope you got it, Ken, 'cause I didn't write it. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So this the continual cloud that you put over the orchestra continues for another 2 or 3 weeks because you refuse to release this information and get in a letter written to the sheriff requesting a final copy of the criminal investigation. So we're going to continue this on.
It's not criminal.
And so, any more discussion? All in favor then of the amendment, do so a show of hands. All opposed? And all in favor of the approval of Bob writing a letter to the Sheriff's Department requesting a status, do so with show of hands.
I thought that's what you
I
just
thought
did.
that's what.
Well, that was the amendment.
Oh,
I guess we
okay.
need to vote on actually approving sending that letter. I think, I don't know, but I'll just make sure. So, next item is presentation by citizens. This is for anyone who wants to address council on anything, regardless of whether it's on the agenda or not, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good evening. George Glassman, 100 Denbeck Road. Number of issues I'll try to get through as quickly as I can. It's fortuitous in a way that it rained tonight. I'm concerned and embarrassed that the roof in this building is leaking. Okay, it doesn't seem to be rocket science. It would seem to me that the town administrator or council could ask the town administrator to get roofing contractors to look at the roof, figure out what's wrong, provide an estimate to fix it, and get council approval to spend the money to fix it.
We've done that many times in the past.
The gutter, or not the gutters, but the...
We've had a lawsuit.
Whatever that thing is up there,
is it fixable?
Remove the dormers.
Dormers.
Remove the dormers and
dormers
replace make it just a plain roof. No dormers.
Okay, well, why don't we do that if that's going to stop the leak?
Well, if we fix it and we're in the lawsuit, then I guess we lose any chance of.
I mean, it seems to me that you could document the situation now and then still take remedial action after it's documented as to what the condition is, take photographs.
I think the only thing we can do is take the dormers off, put a new roof on it.
Is a lawsuit pending indeed?
I think it's long, I don't know, Jake. I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't think anything's happened
It's
with
not. We basically sued and got a whole lot of work done to the roof. And there were commitments that there was going to be an extended warranty. Whether it's still there or not, I don't know. But for certain, as long as we've had those dormers, we've had a problem with the water. We've had the gentleman back out here 1,000 times.
They put all kinds of caulk up there.
We took the dormers off that side.
We fight it, and it's just, it's an issue that we involve. And believe me, I've got more time to invest in that
there's no
magic.
dormer on this side.
You know, you saw the frustration on my face when I went and got the trash can. We need to call him and have him come out and fix the thing.
Can they just seal the dormers off?
No. The problem is, okay.
Give me the short version if you can.
There's a design flaw.
Yeah, they're not made correctly or installed correctly, and they just leak. And there's no caulking that's going to make it stop.
They weren't
I
in
think
the
we
original
basically had to
design.
take them off and put new panels up there, and the panels don't match.
Correct.
Or put a whole new roof on it. Where all the
And
panels
it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you patch it, if you take the dormers off and you patch it, it's going to look bad. So the only real fix is to replace the entire roof.
Right.
But you're dealing with whether or not you're getting as much out of him as you can possibly get out of him. You're delaying the replacement of the roof as long as you can. It makes sense because it used to be 30 leaks and now it's 1. That place right there and one other one in the back are the only two that we really haven't taken solve this far. And I've been dealing with this. How long has Bill been here? For 20 years.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with the same issue 20 years.
And when they come out and caulk it, it works well for a couple of years, and then that caulking kind of hardens and cracks, and then it gets
So we got to
worse
come
and
back
worse.
out and come out and fix it, which they've always done.
Is it investigated up there to see what damage it is?
I've been dealing with this since 1998.
We
I got
got
to file
pans
that.
up there with drains on them to, if it rains too much, the pan gets full and
Right. They put two pans
Leaks
up.
over the pans
They're
instead of
about
draining.
4 inches deep.
I know this is not on agenda, but let's remove the dormers, get architect, somebody to put a new roof on it and be done with it, period. We have to do it.
Okay, why don't you put it on the agenda for the next meeting? Okay, so it can be discussed. Is that too much to ask? Put it on the agenda. Can you do that, Paul?
I'll get some bids and it'll be on one of the next 2 agendas. Maybe get some bids.
Right, staff can put it on the agenda. Get it on the
To let
agenda.
him go on vacation, see.
Okay.
As soon as he gets back, we'll hit him.
Put it on the agenda for 2 meetings from now, Paul, will you?
All right.
Well, that'll be July 16th, or whatever, July, the second meeting in July.
Get something done. Make some progress for me. Okay? As to the Sheriff's Department investigation, where you send 1 letter, 100 letters, I don't think that's going to speed up the resolution by the sheriff. You know, he's going to get this done when he gets it done, whether you send 1 or 100 letters. In fact, I think sending letters may actually slow the thing down, because you might upset the man. I'm a little dismayed at, on item 9D, approval of the expenditure of $9,688.75. I noticed, Mr. Walker, you voted yet again to spend my tax dollars when you clearly can't pay your own taxes because according to the Lexington County Register of Deeds Office, you continue to have tax liens on your property in excess of $16,000 that are apparently still unpaid. And the bulk of those are, what really troubles me is for state sales taxes, which you presumably collected in your business from the customers, but you couldn't be bothered to remit that to the state. Yet you continue to spend my tax dollars. I don't know how you have the audacity to do that.
You seem to know more about my business than I do, aren't you?
Well, maybe you need to get up to speed on that. You don't know that there's tax liens on your property?
I don't know. You seem to.
Do you not know that?
I thank you very much for pointing that out. I mean, you
I pointed it out months ago. Is the step parent
You pointed out months ago that the city of Columbia had a warrant out for my arrest.
And they did. And they did.
But they found that they screwed up, and it was, thank you very much. I thank you in public for pointing that out. We got that resolved. But I mean,
Okay, it'd be nice if you resolved your tax situation now that I pointed that out for at least the third or fourth time. And as to what questions I've asked...
Tax situation has nothing to do with town Irmo Council.
It does, because you're spending my tax dollars.
No, it doesn't. I'm not spending your tax dollars.
That's not money. That's not my tax dollars you spent.
No, that's not your tax. You show me how much of that $9,000 is your tax.
If it's 1 cent, that gives me standing to complain.
Okay, so you want your 1 cent back?
I want you...
You want your 1 cent back?
No, I want you to use proper judgment of spending all the tax dollars for the town.
I do. I think the whole council voted on it.
Okay.
The entire council voted on that, Mr. Glassmeyer. Now, if you want to be an idiot and sit here and tell me about what we're going to try... No, wait a minute. He wants to tell us to debate me directly. Well, if you want to be an idiot and continue to say that, well, I'm spending your tax dollars, why don't you do me a favor? The Irmo town limits is 30 miles that way. You can move out of the town limits if you think I'm not spending your tax dollars right. Or you can just sit down and say, okay, well, you must be doing the right thing.
I'm not going to do either. I'm not satisfied doing either of those things. I live in the town, and you're on my payroll, sir. Don't forget that.
Oh, sir, I'm not on your payroll. You're
you don't get a check from me on town council?
I'm on everybody's payroll in this.
And I'm one of those everybody.
Okay, well, like I said, you figure out how much your payroll that I get from you, and I'll be glad to give it back to you.
If it's 1 cent, it gives me standing to tell you that I'm not happy with the job you're doing.
So I'll give you a penny back, and then you won't have nothing to
Moving on.
Yeah. It's not a debate period. It's just
Mr. Mayor, I noticed that Mr. Walker asked you what questions I had posed that he hadn't answered. Well, I can tell you one of those is right after the last Ochre Strut, I asked him a number of questions about his participation or lack thereof in the Ochre Strut, and I asked him, did he cut a deal to get the waiver, to get a fee waiver on the vendor booth, and he denied that, and yet subsequent to that, I talked to Harvey's wife, Mrs. Hoots, who told me that he did indeed negotiate a waiver for that fee. And then I came back to Mr. Walker and I asked him whose line, Mr. Walker, you or Susan Hoots, and he's not answered that question. So there's one question that he hasn't answered for me, and I've yet to get an answer to that. Which one of them are lying?
First of all, Mr. Walker doesn't have a booth and never had one. It's Mrs. Walker's company, genius. But I noticed you're such a racist, you can't even figure out that a black woman can hold...
What does this have to do with race?
Because it seems like Mrs. Walker is the one that...
Every time something bad happens to you, you want to play the race card. It has nothing to do with race.
This is a citizen presentation. This is not a debate period, so...
When all else fails, play the race card. I don't get that.
Well, hey, you call the monkey a monkey. Right. Mrs. Walker is the president of the company.
Any more comments?
Barry Walker never had a booth for the Ochre Strut.
Well, your name was on the invoice, so I don't know how you explain that.
I don't believe my name was on the invoice.
Oh, yes, it was.
You got a copy of it?
I do.
Show me a copy.
I did when I
Show me a copy of the invoice.
I'll have
Show me a copy of the invoice.
I will. I'll be back.
Show me a copy of the invoice that had Barry Walker's name on it, not Susan Walker as the president of the company.
I'll do that.
Because you're such a racist, you just feel like black women can't do anything like that.
Whatever.
This doesn't have anything to do with race.
Anyone else who would like to address council on anything, regardless of whether it's on the agenda or not, while we ask you give us your name and address for the record? Seeing none. We do have an executive session for a legal matter, and so I need to make a motion that we go into an executive session for a legal matter. Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor? All right. And I wanted to say chief. No, that's right. Yeah, chief. I wanted to say captain. I'm getting confused, but Captain Nates, we need you to come in there too. And
Chief Nates.
Or Chief Nates. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get this straight soon.
And then we're all going to have to...
My mind is slipping. We are back out of executive session, and there were no votes taken, no action taken. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're through.